Again, come and join our love, it's so right if you could feel.
And now a word from the Awakened Radio sponsors. In 1993, the Einstein College of Medicine patented a blood electrification device to clean the blood of bacteria and virus droplets. The device was just too cheap and effective and was not implemented into standard medical practice in hospitals. See where that patent has led to. Check out forcemagneticpulsar.com. That is pulsar, spelled with an ER, not AR. forcemagneticpulsar.com. Have you taken part in the prosperity game at the Awakened Radio Network? Visit our homepage, awakenedradio.net. Find out how you can win prizes just by exercising your money muscle. A $1 donation gets you in the drawing every month for prizes that will blow your mind. Check out the prosperity game here on the Awakened Radio Network, awakenedradio.net. Are you looking for a way to get your name in print? Well, we have an answer for you here at Awakened Radio Network. We are publishing Thrive Evolutionary Consciousness Magazine the 20th of every month. If you would like to submit an article, poetry, or artwork, please visit our website, awakenedradio.net. Look at the top where it says Thrive Evolutionary Consciousness Magazine. You will find information on how to submit an article, poetry, or artwork. There also have information there for you to advertise and get the word out in our magazine that reaches thousands of people globally at very affordable rates. Awakened Radio Network and Thrive Evolutionary Consciousness Magazine are working together with you for a win-win for everyone. Success is a lifestyle.
Welcome to Simply Conversations. This show airs every Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central, 7 Mountain, and 6 Pacific. Each week we'll have a new conversation exploring the life of a person who began to listen to his or her heart. Join us as we open the door for these uplifting and courageous people. Whether they are young, old, or somewhere in between, their work has helped to transform their lives, and it ultimately helps to support, heal, and grow their communities. Listen to our discussion and be inspired as you hear about life-changing and transforming stories. Be part of our conversation. Feel free to take part in our chat room or on the phone. Ask questions and chat with our guests. This show is brought to you by simplyconversations.com. Hi everyone, welcome to Simply Conversations. I'm Rob Ragozzine. Thank you for joining us. It's October 13th, 2013, 9 p.m. Please join us in the chat room by coming to awakenedradio.net and clicking on the live chat tab, or join us on the air by adding Awakened Radio to Skype or dialing 334-649-7204. This week's guest will be Janet Roper. Come gather with us in our conversation as we open the door for Janet. Janet is a speaker, blogger, spiritual director, author, animal advocate, and well-known and an internationally known animal communicator. She has made contributions also to numerous books, magazines, and TV and radio programs. Janet says, in this remarkable, captivating world, we can not only talk to the animals, but we can listen to what they have to say and begin to see the world from the animal's point of view. If you're inspired by tonight's talk, please contact me on Facebook and Twitter and participate in a call of your own. We'd love to hear about how you've healed and changed your community and your life. Now tonight, as usual, the second half of the show, at the half-hour mark, we'll open to listener comments and questions. But for now, we'll welcome Janet to the show. So welcome, Janet. I know how hard it is to come on radio, and I'd like to thank you for the courage to do that. How are you tonight?
Hi, Rob. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm delighted to be a guest on your show tonight.
Delighted to have you. Now, we were just talking about the quote about communicating with animals, and you say that on your show you believe everyone has the ability to communicate with different species, and it's not just for few people, it's just we have to accept and develop our own abilities, and we're all at different levels. So where might you recommend that people start to communicate with their animal friends?
Well, first of all, Rob, I want to apologize about the train that's going by. It is our evening 8 o'clock p.m. train that's running a little bit late. I thought it would be done by now. But where we start communicating with animals is, first of all, knowing that they are sentient beings, just like we are. And because they're sentient beings, we have an inborn connection to connect with all sentient beings, including our animal brethren. So I think the first place in just starting to connect with the animals, to talk to the animals, is to open yourself to the possibility that, yes, you can do this, and it really does exist. It's not woo-woo. It's very practical.
So can you talk about some ways in which people can start to get comfortable, not only with themselves, but with this concept of being able to talk with their pets and their companions?
Absolutely, Rob. I think the first thing is getting comfortable and accepting the fact, like I said earlier, that this is a very natural thing to do. And one way to do that is surrounding yourself by listening to shows like yours that talk about intuition, that talk about opening up yourself, so that you're surrounding yourself with people who use this in their daily lives, and who are used to using this as an ordinary, everyday tool in their life, the intuition that I'm talking about. So that it's not something that's special and not something that, just a select few people can do, but you are truly surrounding yourself with people who use this and who believe it and who count on it to help them in the everyday of their life. I think that some way that people can start in accepting that we connect to the animals is trusting their own intuition, is realizing how much you already use it in your everyday, ordinary life, and you're not aware of it. You just call it, it's a hunch, or it's a coincidence, or something like that, or it was a gut feeling. So, for instance, if you're driving your car and you come up to this four-way stop and it's your turn to go, but you get this hunch that you should stop because maybe a truck is going to be coming through or something, pay attention to that hunch. That's your intuition helping you. So it's accepting that, yes, we all do this, we all use it already, and bringing it to the forefront of our consciousness. Now, once we've done that, practicing talking to the animals, that might be a little bit different because, they are different species, and who's saying that the snake in your backyard is going to talk to you? So start with the animals that you know. Okay, and that might be your own domesticated animals. And one way to start in doing that is if you get a picture, or if you get words, or if you get a feeling that your dog is saying, hey, it's time to be fed. Why aren't you feeding me? Or, hey, my water bowl is empty. Come fill up my water bowl. Then you trust that gut. What I like to tell folks to do is rely on those intuition feelings that you're getting and then back it up with the body language of your animal. Okay, so what your animal is telling you. Does that make sense, Rob?
Makes absolute sense. Maybe also to have a little journal and to record that when your cat runs around in a circle, that it really wants you to go fill up the water bowl.
You know what? That's an awesome idea to have a journal. And to just notate down what is happening, how you're receiving the information. And I think that people will be surprised at how many times they find that they're actually right. Because you know what, Rob, when you're using a journal, you're relying, so to speak, on the left side of your brain. You're looking at actual facts there that you've recorded that you can't deny because it's in writing. I know sometimes with me, I can find myself thinking, oh, wow, did that animal really say that? And then when I go back and I look at what is notated down in the conversation, it's there in black and white that verifies what that animal said. And also the different ways that you can receive the information. Because, I call it talk to the animals because I love to talk. And when I was growing up, my mom said that I would talk even to a fence post if it would talk back to me, and that was very true. I can talk to anybody. I love talking. So the information comes to me mostly in words because the animals understand that that's how my brain computes, mostly in words. But I also get pictures. I get feelings, physical feelings, emotional feelings. I've never had a smell or very rarely had a smell. And one of my colleagues, it's very interesting, she receives messages through music, and even though I'm a musician, I've never received information that way. So I think that's a really cool thing. People can also be aware of their dreams that they have, that the dreams are not just like a picture book, so to speak, but they actually can convey information to you once you start understanding your dreams. And again, keeping a dream notebook so that you can see what's going on. And
make sure that you're comfortable in the process of understanding the dream. Don't just leave it in the book, but to begin to work on understanding what that dream meant for you, especially if you're trying to communicate with your animal friends and your pets, and they start showing up in your dreams. That could be a new way to develop communication skills with them.
Absolutely. And Rob, I'm so glad that you brought that up about the comfort level, because when you are connecting with the animals or the sentient beings, they are so happy that we humans are finally getting on the bandwagon and remembering that this is a very natural thing for us to do, to connect to other beings, that they are just meeting us more than halfway. The thing to remember is that they will never, I've never experienced an animal pushing anybody past their comfort level. The animals are so excited to have us humans joining in on this that they want to make sure that it's a comfortable adventure for us, not a quote unquote woo-woo adventure, or not something that's scary or anything like that, but a normal experience, a comfortable experience for us. They have our best interest at heart.
Which brings up a question for me, Janet, is when did you feel or think about first communicating with an animal?
Rob, it was something that I had when I was a child. I was an only child, and my parents were much older than the parents in my school, which, in hindsight, I realize that now. And I was very protected, okay? And so I did it as a kid, and I'd go to my grandma and say, oh, the dog said this, and the dog said that, and the squirrel said this. And the next thing, my parents are going, don't tell the neighbors that. They're going to think we're nuts, kind of. They're going to think you're nuts, kind of thing. So it kind of got squashed down in me. And then in 2000, I really went a roundabout way to become an animal communicator. My background is in music performance and in music education. And then in 2000, I started in a spiritual development program to become a spiritual director. And it was very interesting that taking that spiritual direction program, taking my natural listening skills as a musician, and combining that with my educational skills, all of a sudden I realized that, animal communication is wrapped up, so to speak, in all of those the skills that I used on a regular basis. But I was led into animal communication in, I think it was 2005. I adopted a dog from the Humane Society, and he was just the most adorable thing on the face of the earth. I was teaching music at the time and had just put down one of my dogs. And I need to have 2 dogs in my life. It's just a fact of life for me. So my one dog and I went out to the Humane Society, and we found this really scruffy mutt, overweight and just scraggly, and he had the biggest grin on his face, and he was there in the welcoming room. He was such a good boy that the staff there at the Humane Society, they would let him be out and welcome the guests. And his name at the time was Tundra, and when I walked in and I saw Tundra with his big smile and this big bushy tail that had a little puppy attached to it that Tundra was dragging around the floor there at the Humane Society, something said, that's your dog. And that was my intuition, of course. And then I immediately went into the left side of my brain And I started asking all the practical questions about, has he had his shots, why he's in the Humane Society, does he keep his kennel clean, that kind of stuff. And, it just seemed like a win-win situation for everyone. For Tundra, I renamed him Teddy. For my dog Emmy at the time, she and Teddy got along just fabulously. And I got Teddy home, and literally the first thing he did was pee and poop in the house. And I thought, okay, new dog, he's marking his territory. And Teddy was 8 years old at the time. But from there, he continued to do it and went to the vet, had him checked out, worked with the trainer, and that wasn't working. So I'm sitting in front of the fireplace one day, and this ad for Animal Communicator falls into my lap. And yes, I'd heard about them before, but I'd never really experienced one in real life before. So I called out of desperation. She came out and she worked with me and Teddy, and it was incredible to see how he responded to having someone connect with him in what is his native language, so to speak, of intuition, connecting on a deeper level than words will do. And so as she was doing this, I'm going, hey, I do that. I used to do that all the time as a kid. And the light bulb went off, and then I started studying, and then the next thing you know, I end up here talking to you on the show about it. And it's just a wonderful thing. With Teddy, the animal communication, and it's not magic. I want to add that, Rob. Animal communication is not magic. It's about dealing with a relationship with a sentient being, and just like with relationships with human beings, you need to work at those relationships. You need to build. You need to create. You need to tweak. So at the end of I think it was like 6 months. Okay, but anyway, within the year's time, I was able to totally redo the house, new flooring, new furniture, because Teddy did such a great job of keeping the house clean. So I was led into animal communication by my dog.
So it's really about learning to listen.
Yes.
Not only to your animal friends, but to yourself as well.
Yes, because when I am connecting to the animals, it's like there's at least two parts of me when I am connecting with the animals. And the one part of me is having the conversation. And usually when I am doing an animal communication, I don't see the animal in real life. Most of my communications are done over Skype or over the phone or over email. I would say probably 98% of them are done that way without me seeing the animal in real life. But what I do is, part of me is holding the conversation with the animal. Part of me is listening to the animal, translating back to the human companion what the animal is saying. And another part of me, and this is an important part, is away from the communication, so to speak, not actively involved in the communication per se, but actively involved in how I'm reacting to that communication. So if there's any warning bells that are going off, for instance, I've got a horse. And years ago, my horse had his eye taken out, okay? And that was a traumatic experience for me. Not even the horse experienced it the way I did. He was very comfortable with the whole process. But this horse is the love of my life, and anything that has anything to do with his health, it's kind of like I'm on edge because he's had so many health issues. So what I need to do when I am talking to a client who has a horse, and perhaps that horse is getting ready to have their eye removed or has just had their eye removed, I have to really make sure that that's not pulling up any old luggage that I might be carrying around because my horse Shiloh had his eye removed. So there's that part of me in the conversation that is watching how I'm reacting to the information that I'm receiving in the communication.
So it's noticing how you feel on many, many different levels. Correct.
And if there's any kind of warning bells that start going off, then I look at it that it's my job to either reconnect myself to that communication, I mean smack dab right then and there, and do it, or say, you know what, can we reschedule? Or if it's something that I need to really work on within myself, then perhaps it's to say, you know what, maybe I'm not the communicator for you right now, but I can recommend some others who can help with this. Animal communication, and you and I have talked about this before, Rob. I'm going to say animal communication, but I believe it's the same with using your intuition. It's really getting to know yourself. It's really getting to know yourself and how you react to different stimuli, so that when you are receiving information, it's coming through in as clear as a vessel as possible, with as few of our human attachments attached to it.
So not only is it healing for the animal, it's healing for you as the reader, and healing for the pet owner as well.
Yes, and I'm glad you said that, because when I first started doing communications, from my experience, I was going, oh, this is just so cool. I'm helping the animal. And then, as I got more experience, it was like, oh, yes, I'm helping the animal and I'm helping the person. And then I realized, yes, I'm helping the animal, the person, and me. And what's really interesting, Rob, is sometimes the animals will have information for me personally. It's like, we want to tell you you're doing a good job about blah, 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 or we want to tell you that, in this part of the animal communication, you could practice a little bit more here, or, release this, work on that kind of thing. And when the animals are doing that, they are not doing it with judgment. Again, as I said earlier, I've never experienced an animal saying anything with judgment, but only in full support. And so the animals, like I say, they're our teachers and our guides, and they are guiding us, helping us learn more about ourselves so that we can help their humans learn more about the animals. We communicators become the translators, so to speak.
So, Janet, when was the first time that you knew that your communication was genuine and real with an animal?
I like that question. At the very beginning, I was relying a lot on the feedback from the humans, and I still do. Because believe me, the humans will be the first ones to tell you that, gee, my dog doesn't have a red collar, my dog's got a purple collar, or, whatever the situation is. They're the first ones that's going to be giving me feedback, because they, of course, know their animal the best, and they are the most attached, so to speak, to the animal and the outcome of the conversation. So I rely on that, Rob, and that was, early on I was getting that. Again, keeping a journal and writing it down, okay? When I keep a journal in animal communication, I keep the communication, the date, the time, the practical stuff like that. I also keep how I receive the information, and then I also keep track of what my feelings were, as I said earlier, during the conversation. So as I've been practicing for years and years and years, now it's a feeling in my gut that I'm trusting the information. And it's really interesting because animals, like I say, they've got our best interest in mind, but they can be tricksters too, So sometimes the animal will give me some information, and it's just like, okay, this is what the animal said at this point in time, so at this moment in time I'm going to take it as the truth, but it's not ringing true for me in my gut. So I'm going to hang on to this little piece of information right now, and we're going to circle back around to this in the conversation. So it's moved from the actual seeing it in black and white, this is what I'm experiencing, this is the feedback that I'm getting, to really trusting my gut. The one thing I would like the listening audience to know, too, is that as they start listening to their own guts, in connecting with their animals, or in connecting with their intuition in general, they will really start feeling that. And it's, I don't know about like with you, Rob, but for me, I physically feel it in my gut. Yes, this is right. No, this is not. We need to dig deeper into something here.
Yes, that's an accurate description, because now you're tuning into your body, I'm tuning into my body, and you're recognizing that it feels correct.
Yeah.
It feels good.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like you're ignoring something. Now, that goes back to the journaling, Janet, is when you're journaling something and something comes up, do you find it hard to go back and follow up, or do you make sure that you go and follow up on certain things that seem to be coming up again and again?
Bingo. I follow up immediately on things that are coming up again and again and again. Because the way I look at my job as a communicator is my job is to get rid of any blocks or any kind of stumbling stones, so to speak, anything that I would stumble over that is standing in between me and direct communication with that animal. Okay? So if it's like earlier I said, if this talking with this animal reminds me of talking with my horse when he was having his eye out, or talking, or the experience I had with having to put down one of my own animals, then it's like I need to get into that situation deeper myself personally, because that's an open invitation, Rob, for me to get to know myself better through my intuition. It's not, again, it doesn't go back to judgment in my book. It goes back to observation. We observe what comes up. We take that information and we work with it. And the other thing, too, Rob, is that I find it so interesting is that with me personally, I will think, okay, I've really gotten over, this luggage that I've got of working with horses that are having had their eye removed, and I'm thinking I'm doing really good, and then for a year or so it's doing really good, and then all of a sudden a communication will come in that's just a little bit different, and it brings that gut feeling up in me again. It's like, okay, I need to go back and revisit that experience that I had when Shiloh had his eye out, and now it's time to clear it out from a different perspective. Not necessarily a different level, or at least the way I look at it, but from a different perspective, because that conversation brought it up a little bit differently than what I thought I had cleared out in the past.
Janet, we're coming up on our half-hour break. Would you like to share some of your links so that people can find you on the internet?
Absolutely. You will find me on social media as Janet Roper. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter, both as Janet Roper. You will find talktotheanimals.net, and that is talk with the number 2, theanimals.net is my website and my blog. And then you will find my radio show at talktotheanimalsradio.com. And again, that's talk with the number 2, theanimalsradio.com.
And when is your show on?
The show is on live Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Central Time. And I'm excited that you are Talk to the Animals radio intuition expert, and you come on monthly, coming on this coming Tuesday, as a matter of fact, helping the Talk to the Animals community work on their intuition. I'm very excited about that. We also air Thursdays at 1 p.m. Central Time, and that is our encore performance. And shows are available. They are archived and they're available for download on the Talk to the Animals radio page and also at iTunes.
Now, do you have any way for people to do any research so that they can find a way to begin talking to the animals on their own on your site?
Absolutely. First of all, if you sign up for my newsletter, that comes out usually weekly, and there's always an animal communication tip in there. And you can just go to talktotheanimals.net and you will see the sign up box there for the newsletter. But there's also an MP3 and an ebook that Coriel Kramer, a colleague, and I have co-written, and that is Learning Basic Animal Communication, and you will see that on my site too. And it's, like I say, an ebook, and there's, I think, 3 or 4 MP3s that talk about the process of animal communication and literally walk you through it and how to do it and, what to look out for. And you're getting it from 2 different animal communicators, 2 different perspectives.
That's wonderful. And
Thank
of
you.
course, every week you have a different topic that you talk about, so people can learn about what their cat needs or what their dog needs or basic care techniques.
Right. Yeah, so with Talk to the Animals, it's more than animal communication. It's actually developing the animal-human bond. So we do talk about human things too, not just animals.
Okay. And recently you also started up a Twitter hashtag for Talk About Grief.
Yes.
Grief.
Yes, that is Pet Grief, and that is over on Twitter, and that is Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central Time. And that is for anyone who has lost an animal, who's grieving an animal, and that can be through death and dying, that can be through hospice, that can be through a lost animal, that can be having had to surrender an animal due to life, things happening in life. And it's a place of support. It's not a place of fixing things per se, but it's a safe place to bring out your grief and to talk about the process of grief and how it's different for different people. Because one of the things that I've learned, Rob, is that we really need to bring that grief into the open to heal it so that we can go on with our relationship with animals.
That's very good, and we'll be back after this break with Janet Roper.
All eyes open, showing our inside and light so bright. We are awakened.
Thank you for listening to the Awakened Radio Network at awakenedradio.net, where we invite you to join us for the Prosperity Game. You can win prizes. You can also discover the easy, quick, surefire ways to allow prosperity into your life experience. The Prosperity Games are ongoing on the Awakened Radio Network. Check out our front page, awakenedradio.net, for details on the Prosperity Game. You can win prizes by calling in, by being in our chat room. You can even win by leaving comments in our forum. We've got all manner of ways for you to join us to play the Prosperity Game, where we all win and live beautiful, wonderful, on-purpose lives. Join us for the Prosperity Games at awakenedradio.net.
Hello, this is Rob Ragozzine. Please tune to my show, Simply Conversations. It airs every Sunday night at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, 7 Mountain, 6 Pacific. Each week, I invite a new guest to talk about his or her personal life changes and experiences. Please listen and invite your friends. You may even be inspired to take new steps in your life. And we're back with Janet Roper. If you have a question for Janet, you can type it into our chat room chat box by coming to awakenedradio.net and clicking on the live chat tab, or at Awakened Radio to Skype, or call 334-649-7204 with your question for Janet Roper. Now, Janet, as we were talking about the pets and your own work and your own healing work, do you notice if people are initially skeptical or afraid, or at least willing to try it out so that they can move past whatever issues they have?
Yes, and one thing that I do with animal communication is I am very mundane about it. I am very practical about it. And Rob, I've literally, it's kind of funny actually, I've gone to real life networking events and, hi, my name is Janet Roper and I'm an animal communicator, just like Dr. Doolittle. And I pretty much say it, like that. And next thing you know, the realtor is saying, oh, I need to go over there. There's somebody they haven't seen for 6 months. So, when it's presented like that, first of all, is in a very practical way, I have found that people who, I'll use the term left brain, okay, who are working more from their left brain, that they start to listen to it more because I am so practical about it. I'm not so woo-woo about it, for lack of a better word. I think that many times when people meet me, they expect me to come in with a crystal ball, or they expect me to have a crystal ball and, be dressed up like a gypsy and all that kind of good stuff. And, I'm the gal who's going to be sitting over at Caribou on my iPhone, drinking a cup of coffee. That can scare people off sometimes, but I think when it's approached in a very practical way, and it's approached in a way that people can understand it, how it is a helpful tool, that helps people to open up to animal communication. My favorite group of folks to work with, so to speak, are respectful skeptics. Because to me, the respectful skeptic, they're just so close to stepping over the line, and they just need some help, doing this. Need some help. And so I love conversations with skeptics.
And you also offer, as we were talking about before, the pet grief chat on Twitter, and I think that's helping a tremendous amount of people because I see the comments coming through about how people are healing or they're just where they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you know what I did too, Rob, and this was actually suggested by a couple of people who contacted me privately because of the pet grief going on Twitter. They felt that Twitter was too open of a forum, and they didn't feel safe sharing their comments there. So now what I've done is I started a private group on Facebook. Same name, it's hashtag pet grief. And it is a closed group, and only the people who are in the group will see comments. So if people want an invitation to that, they can just connect with me, and I can send them the link to go to the Facebook Pet Grief.
And they're okay where they are. They don't have to make any kind of healing changes necessarily. They can just talk about where they are.
Yes, exactly. Because so much of it, particularly when we're talking about grieving animals, our society does not do well with death and dying and the process of it. We celebrate births, but with deaths, it's okay. You know, Rover died, and it's only a dog, so you know you can take the afternoon off, but come back into work tomorrow. And I say that rather flippantly, but that's what a lot of people experience or tell me that they have experienced when they are grieving their animals. And it's very interesting because at my old house, I lived next door to like the best neighbors in the world, and they were just so kind to me and everything. And I had to put my little dog Teddy down, which was definitely a traumatic day for me. And so they invited me over to dinner that night. And I know my own grief process well enough to know that when I'm experiencing grief, I need time to crash and cry. I'm not one who can just immediately go back into the stream of real life. And they were so kind to, you know, invite me over for dinner. And they even were like fixing my favorite fish, which they knew that I really liked, and all that beautiful, lovely stuff. And I had to say, I'm sorry, I can't do this. I need to be able to crash and cry, and I won't be able to do it in front of people. And as kind as your offer is, I simply can't do it tonight. But I took a rain check on it, you know, rest assured for that. But it's amazing how we need help in standing in the mystery of our grief and what we're experiencing. And to know that we are doing the best we can for our animal pals. And to take that to heart, that we are doing the best that we can for our animal pals. This past week, we've been talking about guilt and grief. And one of the things that I find so interesting is, as I'm experiencing myself, is for me, guilt is not so much an emotion, but a judgment and a condemnation of what I've done. And when you turn it around and look at guilt from that perspective, I think that opens us up to be more kind to ourselves.
Self-compassion.
Yes, yes.
Janet, when people start to feel empowered by their animal communication, what happens then? Empowered by their animal communication.
Okay, Rob, I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I said when people start to feel empowered through the animal communication, what happens then?
First of all, it's the light bulb goes off over their head. It's like, oh my gosh, I can do this. I can do this. And it's just so delightful to see that. And for them to step in their own power of being able to connect with their own animals, or, you know, the bird in the backyard, or the squirrel in the backyard, or the buffalo at the park, at the state park that they might go visit. The other thing that happens is that the relationship with the animal really goes down a couple of deeper levels, and it becomes more foundational. The word that's coming to mind is that there's more of a trust there with but that's not exactly the correct word. I'll have to play with that, and hopefully the correct word will come up in a little bit. But there's more of an acceptance there that the animal is realizing and is taking in that we are speaking more on their level. We have taken off our human blinders. And we are, looking at life, experiencing life through the same way that they experience it. So there's a compassion there. I had a really interesting story. I talked to a dog that he hated to have his nails clipped, so they wanted some help with that. So the dog and I talked about that long distance, okay? And human parents, took that information. They worked with the dog, and when this problem first started, it was taking like 3 vet techs to hold this dog down when he would go in to have his nails clipped there at the vet. They couldn't even take him into a groomer. They had to take him into the vet. And so we had the conversation, and then the next time that they took the dog in, it only took the vet tech that was actually clipping the nails to hold him and to clip his nails. And they were so impressed with that. So, time goes on, and he's doing really well at getting his nails clipped. And I know these folks personally. They invited me over for dinner, so I went over to their house for dinner. And it was really funny because I was supposed to be there, let's say, at 6 o'clock, okay? So I show up at 5 minutes to 6. And the husband is talking to me, and the dog is there, and the dog didn't bark. I'd not met the dog in real life, but only intuitively through the communication. So the dog and I are having a great time, and the wife finally called me on my cell phone there at her house. She was down in the basement, and she said, "Oh, have you been in an accident? I was really worried. You didn't call, and you're not here at the house." And I said, "I'm upstairs talking to your husband." And she said, "How can that be? Because the dog didn't bark when you came in." And I said, "He didn't. He knows me." So there's that connection that's made, too. You don't need to be in front of the animal to connect intuitively with them. You can do it long distance is what I've done.
Well, it also speaks to our connection to everyone else, including the animals. It's that we don't have to be right in front of them. We could be in proximity. Right.
Yeah, I like to liken it to, it's like writing an email. You and I have never met in real life before, but we're talking all the time. I've got your correct email information, and I know how to get a hold of you. You've got my correct email information, and it just works. It's the same with intuition. As a matter of fact, Rob, we should try it sometime, just connecting with intuition, see what happens. One of my favorite things is when I'm like thinking of a person, and like 2 minutes later they call, and it's just like, rock on. This is so awesome when this happens.
That is awesome. That's a good experiment. We'll have to try that one day.
Yeah.
Janet, had a question about, we're talking about improving ourselves, but how about improving our relationships with others, with other humans, as we do this work?
That's an excellent question. And absolutely, it does improve relationships with other humans because we're looking at relationships differently, because we're looking at ourselves differently. So when I was talking earlier about removing those blocks, I'm more compassionate with myself because I've removed those blocks, If I see somebody that's experiencing those blocks or, somebody that's experiencing blocks, I can be more compassionate with them because I've done that work myself. So, yeah, it really does. And I think also one of the fun things in communicating with animals is that they really make you toe the line. Okay, they might tease you and they might have fun with you, but, you're basically going to have to toe the line. And you need to be honest in the communication and honest in what you're saying and what you're feeling. With animal communication, it's critical that what you're saying and what you're feeling are congruent with each other. Because the animals, they don't understand English, They understand our tone of voice. They understand our vibrations, our emotions. That they get. So when we are saying to an animal, "Oh, it's okay, don't worry, we're just going to the vet, everything will be okay," but we're worried about ourselves, the animal's totally tuned into our feelings and is picking up on that. So I think that when we're working with communications and it's with the animals, it does help us to be more honest with ourselves, which we take into relationships that we have with the humans then.
Janet, got a question from Donna. She says, do the animals remind the humans to be kinder to their human selves?
All the time. All the time. And Donna, that is an excellent question. And it's up to us humans to remember to be kinder to our human selves, because we can get in that, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, blah, blah, blah. I've got to take care of the animals. I'm their caretaker. And then we forget that the relationship is actually two-way. Okay? It's not us taking care just of the animals. They are taking care of us in their animal way. And it's us humans taking off our blinders and looking at that. Another one of my favorite stories is my dear darling horse, Shiloh. horses are wormed, like every 6 to 8 weeks, and so Shiloh's had this done. He's going to be 22 years old in February, and so he's had this done, every 6 to 8 weeks of his life, and he hates it with a purple passion. And every time I go out there to worm him, it's like this has never happened before, and he's just such a drama king. It's like, oh my gosh, woe is me, I've got to get wormed. This is just horrible. It is humorous in a way, but on the other hand, I understand that, he really doesn't like this, and he is really truthfully telling me that he doesn't like this. So I went out to talk to him one day, and I was getting ready to worm him, and it was cold, and he wasn't talking to me, and I just got all over him because, you're not listening to me. Oh my gosh, I'm just going to go home. And he reminded me very kindly and very lovingly and very gently, and he was in my face about it, that I'm not listening to you because you have an agenda. You need to get rid of your human agenda so you can hear what I have to say. And he was very kind about it, kind in the sense that he stuck his nose in the corner and he had his big butt towards me and everything. But he was doing it from a place of pure love and pure compassion for me and helping me understand that. So now I realize that when I'm out there with him and when I'm in connection with any animals, that is important that I don't have my human agenda going on, that I am truly in animal time, so to speak, and in an animal place, so to speak. Does that make sense, Rob?
Yes, sure. It goes back to having compassion for the animal, having compassion for yourself, and making space, being in the now.
Right, and you know what? It's not either or. It's not either the human or the animal. It's both and. And I think as animal caretakers, we can forget that. That it needs to be both and. It needs to be a win-win situation for all of us. So, for instance, I've had to put down a couple of my animals, my dog in April and one of my cats in September, just a few weeks ago. And another one of my cats was really acting out. He's been acting out this whole year, so much to the point that I was thinking, oh my gosh, can we continue to live together? Do I need to find him a different home? And what I realized, and this is with the help of a couple of other communicators, because I'm so close to the situation I couldn't see it, that what my cat was telling me, the one that I called acting out, he was actually telling me to take care of myself, to slow down, to not be thinking, oh, I've got to do this for, Emmy now, and now I've got to do this for Minty, and now I've got to go out to the barn and do this for Shiloh, and now I've got to do laundry, and now I've got to do this. And Billy was doing it the best way that he knew how, which was actually standing in front of me, literally, physically blocking me and making me slow down to go around him. And it was with the help of a couple of other communicators that I could see what was going on. And then once I saw it, it was like, oh my gosh, and I just felt so bad because here Billy had been telling me, and as an animal communicator, I was so wrapped up in what was going on with the animals as they were transitioning that I wasn't listening to him fully. And so, lesson learned, what can I say?
We had another question about the Dog Whisperer. Do you watch that show, and what do you think about it?
I don't watch that show. My personal experience with that is I like working on the relationship with, and to me, I've seen that going to power over the animals. So I work from a different point that he does.
Janet, when you come back to the people that you've worked with, do you notice any changes? What's the experience? So you come back a year later and then talk with them then. What happens?
With the humans, you mean?
Yes. Well, with the humans, with their pets?
Yep. One thing I've noticed is that the humans are starting to see things from a broader perspective. It's just not that human perspective anymore. It's really looking at things from the point of view of the animal and learning how to do that. And also the thing that I rejoice in as a teacher and as a mentor for people working in animal communication or working on their animal communication skills is how they have started to not only trust in their intuition, but to trust themselves more. And to see that foundation get stronger and stronger with them, with themselves, the humans. And to see how that just blossoms over to every part of their life.
Janet, what was one of your initial aha moments when you began to help people with their pets?
Oh, that's a great question. There's so many of them, Rob. To me, as a teacher, I think it goes back to seeing the light bulb go off when that person really realizes that they can connect with their animal on that deeper level, and that the animal was not just, being a troublemaker, but was really honestly trying to say something to the human in the best way that they know how. Like what I was explaining with my cats, Billy, a little bit earlier. So there's that is just incredible. The other thing, I think this is the musician part of me, is how people really start listening to the importance of words and what they are saying, and how there's a behind words, and how we can use words to create whatever situations we want, whether for the good or the bad. And so many of us do that unconsciously on different levels, and do it unconsciously on a daily basis. That when you're starting to really have to hone in with your words and making sure that they are congruent with your feelings, that puts a whole different dimension on vocabulary, in my experience and in my opinion.
Well, that's being honest, being human, being real.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In all of your relationships, not just with your pets, but with yourself and with everyone else in your life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we're really learning how to be present and have compassion for everyone.
Right. Because, Rob, in my experience and in my opinion, the family dog, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump till you're talking to the cardinal outside your window. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump till you're talking to the snake, that you might see in the state park, or the mosquitoes in the summertime, or the ants that want to live in your house, or the plants in your yard, or the trees that you see at the park, or the stones, because we're all part of nature. We're all created by nature. We're all sentient beings, sentient family together, and we humans got off of that bandwagon for a while, and we went on our own little way, and we are discovering that, hey, it's not working as good as we thought it was going to work for us. So more of us are getting in connection with nature through our intuition. And let me tell you, all the sentient beings, as I said, they are rejoicing with that fact.
Janet, do you feel as if you're a part of a growing community, as if you're helping to grow a community?
Absolutely. And actually, I'll take that, there's two sides. What I'm hearing is two sides to that question. I am part of a growing community of support and help for myself personally, and helping me develop my own intuition, my own connection, my own humanness, so that it actually does become more of a humanness, so to speak. And then also the Talk to the Animals community is just growing by leaps and bounds, which is just a delight, and it's so much fun. And you know what, Rob? People have so much fun with their animals and connecting with their animals, and it's such a joy to hear people talk about their experiences with their animals.
Now, Janet, with all this healthcare talk, do you think that there's room for programs like pet therapy, and would you like to see that grow?
Oh, yes. Because, it's a proven fact that the pets, the animals in our life, that they are good for us. They lower blood pressure. They get us out exercising. They are good for us. One of my cats, this is one that I had to put down, I think, in 2005, long time ago anyway. And when I would be crying, he would come up to me and he would cuddle with me, and then he would take his little forehead and he would bump my forehead to comfort me. He would also lick my tears away. So in my mind, there's no doubt that, yes, the animals, they can help us heal. Two-way street, definitely. And when we're talking about that, Rob, with the animals helping us heal, I think it's being open to the gifts that the animals have that we as humans have not fully explored. Taking the animals into a nursing home, taking the horses into a living experience where the people there can actually be in connection with the animals. One of the horses that I had before I had Shiloh, his name was Casper, and he was a big white Tennessee Walker, and he was just, loved him dearly. He was a great first horse for me, and he was just as lazy as the day is long. He loved to perform, and as a first-time horse owner, I mean, he made me work my tail off just to get him into like any kind of movement at all. His idea of a spook was just to open up his eyes. But, you know, it was fascinating because out at the barn where he was at, they would bring in some of the adults with handicaps, and Casper would immediately tune into these people, and he would be so responsive to them, and he would take care of them. And it was just amazing to see that transition where when I would be working with him, you know, he would be giving these little cow kicks, and he'd be complaining, I don't want to do it this way, blah, 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 blah. Working with these humans in a caring, in a health-wise, in a healing manner, he changed character, so to speak, and really took care of them and really gave them a joy that they would say, giddy up, Casper, and he would do it.
That's an inspiring story for pet people everywhere, because it's really not only just taking care of the pet, but it's taking care of you.
Yeah.
Now unfortunately, we've run out of time, come to the end of the show. I want to thank you for coming on, Janet. Thanks for helping people to see that this can be a healing process for them and their pets.
Absolutely. And Rob, thank you so much for having me as a guest on tonight. I've really enjoyed the conversation.
And would you like to share your links one more time? So
my arm and
find you?
Rob. Yeah. You can find me on social media as Janet Roper. You can find me at talktotheanimals.net, and that is talk with the number 2, theanimals.net, and that is the blog and the website. The radio show is talktotheanimalsradio.com, and that airs Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Central, Thursdays at 1 p.m. Central. And do make sure that you tune in this coming Tuesday, because Rob, who is our intuition expert, is going to be on, and we're going to be talking about all kinds of fun things, intuition. And then Thursday evenings is Pet Grief, hashtag Pet Grief over on Twitter, and that is a place to share the responses that you are having to grieving your pet. And then there's also a private group over on Facebook, and if people would like to join the group over on Facebook, they can connect with me at Janet Roper on Facebook and just there, or send an email to talktotheanimalsradio, and that's talk with the number 2, theanimalsradio @gmail.com, and then I can send them the link and they can join that way.
Okay, thanks for coming on, Janet.
Thank you so much, Rob. It's a joy.
Thank you. Now, that was Janet Roper, and you can find her at those links that she provided, and there'll be links from the forum as well. Now, this week, we finished up our Thrive magazine for October, but if you would like to contribute articles, art, or poetry for our Thrive magazine, you need to contribute by November 10th, and we'll share your links in bio and back to your website. If you come to the Awakened Radio store, we have a 35% off discount at checkout if you add holiday to the shopping cart, no minimum or maximum. And we have stones and crystals, and we have tons of readings that you can get from me or some of the other hosts, or some other things as well. You can also come to the Awaken Radio forum and ask questions about communicating with animals in there, right under Janet's page right there. So tons of opportunity to learn more about animal communication right here. And if you'd like to donate to Awakened Radio, we have a donate button at the top of all the screens, and we're largely listener supported and host supported, so we're not making any money. We're simply running a station because we have lots to talk about. And which brings me up to the second topic, which is if you'd like to be a guest on Simply Conversations, please go to simplyconversations.com and fill out the Be a Guest form, and I'll contact you, and we'll talk and welcome you onto the show, and you can be a guest too. You also have the opportunity to be a sponsor of this show or our other shows here at Awakened Radio. You provide us with a 30-second audio spot, and it's played 3 times during the show, and it gets put into the archives, and the shows air 4 times a month. So it's a great opportunity to promote your spiritually based and well-being based businesses. And thanks for tuning in this week. Please stay tuned next week for another episode of Simply Conversations. Thank you. I'll talk with you again next week.
Cause we're awakened. You won't catch us sleeping through the fight in life. We're all eyes open, showing our inside and light so bright. We are awakened. Come and join our love, it's so right. If you could feel what we feel now, you'd be a leader filled with might. Cause we're awakened. You won't catch us sleeping